one of the things we saw announced in the later parts of last year, and I don't think we talked about this, was Francis Ngannou's next fight, which is going to be against Anthony Joshua in Saudi Arabia again, which is a bit of a bummer to me, and you and I talked about that by text. Just that's a moral thing more than I'm not bummed about the fight, I'm bummed about the location. But you had said last year going into Ngannou versus Fury that you thought that might be the biggest fight of the year. I don't know that it turned out to be. It did turn out to be incredibly impressive. Like it was still successful. And we saw Dana, as he does, ripping Ngannou on the way out the door. He thinks he's still going to be a big deal without the UFC. And it turns out, he is a big deal. Yeah. Still outside the UFC. He's still selling fights. He can do this on his own. I guess the Ngannou versus Joshua. The Joshua fight that's coming up is in March 9th.
Yeah, I don't remember the dates exactly. I'd have to look that up. But,
I believe it's early March 4th, March 9th, something like that. What is your level of anticipation for that one in comparison to the Fury fight?
I'm going to be excited to see it again. I really thought last year Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou would be fight of the year, UFC and boxing. Like that was the big one I was expecting. It being in Saudi Arabia, I think kind of hurt it a lot. If it was in North America, we would have had a lot more hype, a lot more build up.
Vegas or New York or something.
If that was a Vegas fight, something that was in a more North America kind of better time. Yeah. There was just so much more that it could have been, rather than Saudi Arabia just throwing, like you said, kind of controversial money all over it, and it just kind of gets into that spot. Now for this, if you're Francis Ngannou, you're making money. I think he's going to make over $10 million once again.
Yep.
So that's big for him. Like he's making big time money, which he was never making in the UFC before that. And this is a guy too that if you don't know his story, he has quite the story of kind of escaping and coming to America to fight.
And grew up in poverty. And it's quite a story. It's awesome to see him be successful. Like an incredibly likable guy.
Yeah. My only issue with this fight now against him, going up against a guy like Anthony Joshua, you don't have that element of surprise anymore, right? When Tyson Fury got knocked down by him, it was like, oh shit, this guy's got power. Yeah. It's like, no shit. This guy was a heavyweight champion and walked away from the UFC.
And he's got fists like mailboxes. Like, I don't know what and you've already seen it in what press they've done. Like, Anthony Joshua is taking this guy seriously. He doesn't appear to be fucking around. And I'm not saying Tyson Fury didn't take him seriously, but Tyson Fury's a different personality, right? He's a different type of guy. Anthony Joshua is looked at Francis Ngannou and went, no, I won't be embarrassed by this guy. I won't take this lightly and have it show up on my record that he's what I got to tell you, I'm more interested in this one than I was in the Tyson Fury fight. I think, and again, I'm not sure, just because of the nature of where boxing is at in 2024, that this will be the biggest selling fight card of the year, but I am incredibly interested. And part of that is just liking Francis, right? Like wanting to see him get what he deserves and what he gambled on. He didn't know when he left the UFC for sure that he would be fine. He obviously gambled on that. He expected that, but he didn't know that. And now here he is. He's had a second... probably the two biggest heavyweight names in the boxing world right now would be Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua.
Yeah.
He's getting both of them in a calendar year.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big thing too. When he left the UFC, I don't think he ever imagined fighting the heavyweight champion of the world and Tyson Fury in a boxing match, knocking him down, kind of hitting him, cutting him. Like, that's the thing. When I look back at that fight, it should have had a lot more hype. It should have had a lot more exposure. It should have been talked about so much more because of how impressive it was. But it wasn't because it was like, okay, Tyson Fury, how serious is he taking this? Right. There's a title fight coming out. He's fighting Alexander Usyk after this fight. So and it kind of came out right as he was like. So was he really taking it seriously? No. Was he just trying to take a money grab? Probably. But it's also like these guys are athletes. Nobody wants to be embarrassed. No. Like there was almost no way that Tyson Fury was going to lose that fight. Anthony Joshua, since he kind of lost his belt, but he lost back-to-back matchups against Usyk, but then he's been on a 3-fight win streak boxing wise against Otto Wallin, Roberto Helenes, I don't even know who that is, and Jermaine Franklin. The 3 fights, the last 3 fights he's had. So, for Francis Ngannou, like these are fights for him where he can surprise. And I think we've seen a lot from him where this guy, even when he hit one of his last fights in the UFC was against Cyril Gane, and everyone's like, well, there's no way he's going to fight Cyril Gane very well because Cyril Gane's such a great athlete. He'll take him down, he'll wrestle him. Well, what did he do? He did the same thing where he just handled him, and he showed that this guy can be a very well-rounded fighter.
Yep.
On top of the fact that he has, like you said, lunch boxes for friggin' fists. Like, this guy's a monster. So, him then fighting Tyson Fury, he's like, I don't want to be a joke. Like, I was a heavyweight champion of the UFC. I walked away. I want to make sure. And like I said, he looked a lot better in that ring against Tyson Fury than I thought that Tyson Fury looked against him. So that said a lot about him.
Yep.
Now to fight an Anthony Joshua, this is a real fight. Now, Francis Ngannou says, I still want to fight UFC. I was really hoping for, Maddie, and I think I might have brought it up, but I was hoping for a kind of reunion to the UFC for UFC 300. Depending on how things went with Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall. I kind of thought that if Pavlovich won, that would be the fight to make for UFC 300. Two of the baddest guys at knocking people out.
Yeah, bringing Ngannou back in.
Bringing like Dana White throwing the money at him. But now I don't know what's going to happen for UFC 300. It's kind of a who knows what. We're waiting for like some good fights, but we're waiting on a headliner here. But now I'm looking at the sense of Francis Ngannou is going to be fighting against Anthony Joshua and doing everything he can to once again now try and correct himself as a boxer. I'm curious to see who he has in his corner. He had Mike Tyson in his corner against Tyson Fury, which he talked about how his dream when he was growing up was to be a boxer, and he loved watching Mike Tyson. So to have him in his corner was really cool. He had Izzy Adesanya there with him.
That was one of the cool moments of that card, right? Was all the African UFC fighters.
Yeah.
Like you said, Usman and Izzy amongst them, kind of lining up, never in like a showdown, but like at the same time, Fury had some big names in the boxing world that accompanied him down to the and so it was sort of this unique stare down between MMA and boxing, and obviously Fury ends up winning the fight, but Ngannou makes it far more compelling, I think, than most people thought he was going to. So I'll be interested to see, and we'll have time. That's not until early March. We'll know to get you back in here to tee that up.